Hey, hi, everyone. Welcome back to Windows Server 2016 video series, Planning Your PKI. Since we are revolving all of our discussion in this book around Windows Server 2016, this certainly means that your CA server can and should be one provided by this latest and greatest operating system. As with most capabilities, Windows Server 2016, the creation of a certification authority server in your network is as simple as installing a Windows role. When you go to add the role to a new server, it is the very first role in the list called Active Directory Services, Certificate Services, ADCS. When installing this role, you will be presented with a couple of important options, and you must understand the meaning behind these options before you create a solid PKI environment. Enterprise versus standalone. When configuring your CA role for the first time, you will be presented with a big choice. Do you want this CA server to be an enterprise CA or a standalone CA? Let's start with the enterprise CA. As the wizard will tell you, an enterprise CA server must be a member of your domain. And these certificate servers typically stay online so that they can issue certificates to computers and users who need them. Wait a minute, why in the world would we want to turn a certificate server off anyway? We will discuss that in a minute. But if you intend to utilize this CA to issue certificates, it must obviously remain turned on. Most CA servers within a domain environment will be enterprise CAs. When creating an enterprise CA, your templates and some certificate specific information is able to store itself within Active Directory, which makes integration between certificates and the domain tighter and more beneficial. If this is your first interaction with the CA role, I recommend that you start with an enterprise CA because this meets the needs better for most organizations. As you can correctly imply from the preceding text, this means that a standalone CA is less common to see in the world. Standalones can be members of the domain, or they can remain out of that part of the network and reside on a local work group. If you had a security requirement that dictates your certificate server could not be domain joined, that might be a reason you would use a standalone CA. Another reason might be in environments where Active Directory simply does not exist. In my eyes, it would be extremely rare to find a network where someone was trying to use Windows Server 2016 as their certification authority, and at the same time was not running Active Directory domain services. But I'm sure there is a corner case somewhere that is doing exactly this. In that case, you would also need to choose standalone. A third example when you would choose standalone is the event we alluded to already, where you might have a reason to turn off your server. When you run this scenario, it is typically referred to as having an offline root. We haven't talked about root CAs, but we will in a minute. When you run an offline root, you create a top level of your PKI hierarchy as a standalone root CA, and then you build your subordinate CAs underneath it. Your subordinate CAs are the ones who issue the actual certificates, which means that the root can be safely shut down. Why would you want to do this when most companies don't? But I've worked with some that are very high level security policies. And this is basically the reason why you might visit the topic. If all of your company CA servers are tied together as enterprise CAs with all of their information being stored inside Active Directory. A compromise to one of the subordinate issuing CAs could spell disaster for your entire PKI. It is possible that the only way to remediate an attack would be to wipe out the whole PKI environment, all of the CA servers, and build them up again. If you had to do this, it would mean not only rebuilding your servers, but also reissuing brand new copies of all your certificates to every user and device that has them. On the other hand, if you are running a standalone root CA that was offline, it would not have been affected by the attack. In this case, you could tear down your online certificate servers, but your core root server would have been safe. You could then bring this root back online, rebuild new subordinates from it, and have an easier path to being 100% operation, because your root keys that are stored within the CA would not have to be reissued. Like I said, I do not see this very often in the field, but it is a possibility. If you're interested in learning more about offline root CAs, I highly recommend checking out the TechNet article, and here's the address if anyone's interested. Root versus subordinate. This is the second big choice you need to make when building a new CA. If your new server going to be a root CA, a subordinate CA, the difference really is just a matter of what you want your CA hierarchy to look like. In a PKI tree, there is a single high-level certificate self-signed to itself by the root CA that everything chains up to. A subordinate CA, on the other hand, is one who resides below the CA in the tree, and it has been issued a certificate of its own from the root above it. If your plans are only to run a single CA server, then it must be root. If you are creating a tiered approach to issuing certificates, then the first CA in your environment needs to be a root, and you can slide subordinates underneath it. You are allowed to have multiple roots and therefore multiple trees within the network. So your particular PKI can be structured however you see fit. In smaller companies, it is very common to see only a single CA server, an enterprise route. For the sake of simplicity in administration, these customers are willing to take the risk that if something happens to that server, it won't be that big a deal to build a new one and reissue certificates. For larger networks, it is more common to see a single root with a couple of subordinates below it. Typically, in this case, the root is only responsible for being the top dog, and the subordinate CAs are the ones who do the actual issuing of certificates to the clients. Can I install a CA role onto a domain controller? Since the role is officially called the Active Directory Certificate Services role, does that mean I should install this role onto one of my domain controller servers? No. Unfortunately, I have run across many small to medium businesses that have done exactly this, and luckily they don't have too many problems. So technically it does work. However, it is not a Microsoft recommended installation path, and you should build your own CAs on their own servers. Try not to co-host them with other roles whenever possible. Creating a new certificate template. Enough talk, it's time to get some work done. Now that our CA role has been installed, let's make it do something. The purpose of a certificate server is to issue certificates, right? So maybe do that not so fast. When you issue a certificate from a CA server to a device or user, you are not choosing which certificate you want to deploy. Rather, you are choosing which certificate template you want to utilize in order to deploy a certificate that is based upon the settings configured inside that template. Certificate templates are sort of like recipes for cooking. On the server side, you build out your templates and include all of the particular ingredients or settings that you want to be incorporated into your final certificate. Then, when the users come to request a certificate from the CA server, they are sort of baking a certificate onto their system by telling the CA which template recipe to follow when building that certificate. Certificates relating to food, maybe that's a stretch, but it's getting pretty late at night, and it is the first thing that came to mind when you walk through the steps to configure your first CA server. It comes with some pre-built certificate templates right in the console. In fact, one of those templates called computer is typically pre-configured to the point where that if a client were to reach out and request a computer certificate from your new CA, it would be able to successfully issue one. But where is the fun in using pre-built templates and certificates? I would rather build my own templates so that I can specify the particular configurations and settings inside that template. This way I know exactly what settings are contained within my certificates that will ultimately be issued to my computers in the network. Once again, the first thing we need to do is launch the proper administrative console in order to do our work. Inside the tools menu of server manager, go ahead and click on certification authority. Once inside, you can expand the name of your certification authority and see some folders, including one on the bottom called certificate templates. If you click on this folder, you will see a list of the templates that are currently built into our own CA server. Since we do not want to utilize one of these pre-existing templates, it is common sense that we would try to right-click in here and create a new template, but this is actually not the correct place to build a new template. The reason why new certificate templates are not built right from this screen must be above my pay grade, because it seems silly that they aren't. But in order to get into a second screen where we need to go to actually manage and modify our templates, you need to right click on the certificate templates folder and then choose manage. Now you see a much more comprehensive list of templates, including a number of them you couldn't view on the first screen. In order to build a new template, what we want to do is find a pre-existing template that functions similarly to the purpose that we want our new certificate template to serve. Computer templates are becoming commonly issued across many organizations due to more technologies requiring these certificates to exist. Yet, like we talked about, we don't want to utilize that baked-in template that is simply called computer, because we want our template to have a more specific name, and maybe we want the certificate validity period to be longer than stock. What we do then is right click on the built-in computer template and click on duplicate template. This opens the properties screen for our new template, from which we first want to give our new template a unique name inside the general tab. In an upcoming chapter, we will discuss direct access, the remote access technology that will be used in our environment. A good implementation of direct access includes machine certificates to be installed to all of the mobile client workstations. So we will be able to make use of this new template for those purposes. The general tab is also the place where we get to define our validity period for this certificate, which we will set to 3 years. If the certificate that you want to issue require any additional settings, you can flip through the available tabs inside the properties and make the necessary adjustments. For our example, another setting I will change is inside the subject name tab. I want my new certificates to have a subject name which matches the common name of the computer where it is being issued. So I have chosen common name from the drop-down list. We have one more tab to visit, and this is something you should check over on every certificate template that you build. It is the security tab. We want to check here to make sure that the security permissions for this template are set in a way that allows the certificate to be issued to the users or computers that we desire, and at the same time make sure that the template security settings are not too loose, creating a situation where someone might be able to get a certificate who doesn't need it. For our example, I plan to issue these direct access certificates to all of the computers in the domain, because this kind of machine certificate I have created could be used for general IPsec authentications as well. So I am just making sure that I have domain controllers listed in the security tab and that they are set for enroll permissions, so that any computer who is joined to my domain will have the option of requesting a new certificate based off my new template. Since that is everything I need inside my new certificate, I simply click OK, and my new certificate template is now included in the list of templates on my own CA server issuing new certificates. Next comes the part that trips up a lot of people on their first attempt. You now have a brand new template to issue, and we have verified that the permissions within that certificate template are appropriately configured so that any computer on your network should be able to request one of the certificates, right? So our logical next step would be to jump onto a client computer and request a certificate. But there is first one additional item that needs to be accomplished in order to make that possible. Even though the new template has been created, it has not yet been published. So at the moment, the CA server will not offer our new template as an option to the clients, even though security permissions are configured for it to do so. The process to publish a certificate template is very quick, only a couple of mouse clicks. But unless you know about the need to do this, it can be a very frustrating experience publishing a template if your certificate template console is still open. The one where we were managing our templates, you can go ahead and close that, so you are back at the main certification authority management console. Remember how we noticed that the list of available certificate templates that shows up here is much shorter. This is because only these certificate templates are currently published and available to be issued. In order to add additional templates to the published list, including our new one, we simply right click on the certificate templates folder and then navigate to new certificate template to issue. Now we are presented with a list of available templates that are not yet issued. All you need to do is choose your new template from the list and click OK. The new template is now included in the list of published certificate templates, and we are ready to request one from a client computer. If you look through this list and do not see your newly created template, you may have to take an additional step. Sometimes simply waiting will resolve this behavior, because occasionally the reason that the new template does not show up in the list is because you are waiting for your domain controllers to finish replicating. At other times, you will find that even after waiting for a while, your new template is still not in the list. In that case, you will probably just need to restart the certification authority service and force it to pull in the new template information. To restart the CA service, you right click on the CA's name near the top of the certification authority management console and navigate to all tasks, top service, then stopping of that service typically only takes a second, and then you can immediately right click on the CA name again, and at this time navigate to all tasks, start service. Now try to publish your new template again, and you should see it in the list. So I'm going to leave it here today for this video. If you like listening, please consider like, sharing, and subscribing. Thank you.